Hello and welcome. In Blender, animations rendering can take quite a while. So in this video I'm going to show you how to quickly render an animation or just an image super quickly as a test, so you don't have to wait for minutes or hours to be able to test whether it's timed correctly in whatever media you're using it. For example, if you're rendering images for a video editor. So what you see here is a comparison. On the left you see the fast render, which just uses the 3D view to render the animation. On the right you see the fancy cycles rendered version, which took perhaps an hour to render, or maybe just half an hour. The left one took less than 10 seconds. This animation has 30 frames per second and is 121 frames long. So here we are in Blender and you can see the animation is all set up. We're gonna create a simple animation later, but for now I'm just gonna show you how to render this normally. Let me stop the animation. Here is the render panel, and I will just press animation. And as you can see, let me see, I did set post-processing, no, never mind that, performance. I did increase the tile size here to match my graphics card, hopefully. My graphics card being the GTX 970. So as you can see, we get a render time of about 14 seconds per frame. Let me just interrupt this. We're gonna jump ahead. We're gonna change this to, let's start at frame 60. And now let's render the animation, just to get a feel for this, how slow it is. Okay, we got some movement, some motion blurring. Alright, still rendering. Come on now. Alright, so this was 17.2. So in this area we are moving around. Let me just calculate this. 17 seconds times 121 divided by 60. So this is going to be a half an hour. 35 minutes, 34 minutes of rendering time. But we can do this better. What we can easily do is just hit this button. Let's just switch to the main camera. I'm going to press 0 on the numpad keys, and then we can use this button here. OpenGL Render Active Viewport. Let's set this start frame back to 1. And we're just going to press this button, OpenGL Render Active Viewport. Just make sure to pay attention to these two buttons, OpenGL Render Active Viewport and OpenGL Render Active Viewport. This one is for a screenshot, this one is for a video. That was it, basically in real time, really. If we now go to the folder location of the output, we can see these images over here. So this is 0031. This is the quick render in OpenGL. If we go in here and go to 0031, we can see quite a difference. Motion blurring, for example, is not supported in this preview mode. And the background color, yeah, the material doesn't really change. But basics are still the same, and the most important thing is, I think, you can easily, quickly see the timing of, for example, this button appearing and stuff like that. So this is how easy it is. We're just going to do the same starting from 0. I'm just going to clear out Blender's settings, so we have as if you just installed Blender from scratch. So now we're working from scratch. Let me just go to User Preferences. I'm going to hit Control-Alt-U. Control-Alt-U. This shows up this window. In System, I'm going to enable CUDA and yeah, the graphics card. Not sure if that's useful, but always useful to have it for actual rendering. I'm just going to get screencast keys real quick. Here we are. Alright. So first I'm going to activate this by pressing N, scrolling down, and start display on screencast keys. This is just for your convenience so you can see what I'm doing at the bottom over here. And I am just going to create a little animation. I'm going to hit numpad 0, which you can also activate in Blender User Preferences via Control-Alt-U. Going to Input and enable Emulate Numpad. If you don't have a numpad on your laptop, for example, then you can just press 0. Alright, we're just going to animate this, so let's start it here. in the N transform panel. By pressing N, I can hide and show us. So on the right here, let me just hide the one on the left with T. On the right, which I can show with N. On the right, I'm gonna hover this area, location, and press I. Then I'm gonna move the mouse over here, press G, move the cube over here. Actually, yeah, I forgot I first have to move in the timeline here. So let's move to 60 frames. Also, let's set this to 30 frames per second, because why not? And now that we are at 60 frames over here, let's press G again, move the cube over here, and hover this area and press I again. Alright, we can hide this part again. And if we press Ctrl A, before I do that, let's just set this to 60. Right, if I press Alt A now, did I say Ctrl A? I meant Alt A. Then we get this nice animation. I'm gonna actually go ahead and go for 120, enable this again, and just copy these values. Gonna have to do it manually because that's how it goes. So that's 1, that is 2. Gonna press I again. And that is 3. And gonna hit I again. Gonna extend this to 120 and Alt A to animate this again. Alright, good. So this one we're gonna now try to render. We are currently in Blender render, which is not great, but hey, whatever. Let's pick some other location. For example, this folder Blender render test, let's get in there and just hit accept. And now we're just gonna go with the defaults. Except, oh yeah, this is Blender render, it can't do GPU rendering, can it now? Let's do it to 100% resolution and just hit animation. Alright, as you can see, this is about, I don't know, 0.75 seconds per frame, I would say. Right, and it looks quite ugly. If we switch to cycles, let's try this animation. Oh boy, let's not even do that. Let's abort that. Let's go to GPU compute. Let's go to performance. Set this to 512. And I guess let's reduce the sampling. Sorry, no freestyle, just sampling. Let's set this to, oh heck, 32, why not? Let's animate now. So this is taking, I mean, this is kind of okay. This is taking 2.5 to 3 seconds per frame. Still obnoxiously slow. And now we're gonna go ahead and just render it super quickly using the method I showed you earlier, using the OpenGL render active viewport. Now if we just hit this button, it shows us a screenshot, which is the same as render over here, but quicker. And of course less detailed and stuff. In this case you can see these lines, which is interesting. What you can do about this is just press A, or maybe twice, to deselect. You hit this button now, you don't see the line anymore. But sometimes you get stuff like, let me duplicate this cube and make it a child of this. Right, you can sometimes see relationship lines. Let's see if this one actually gets drawn. Yeah, you can see this line over here. And if we do an animation, which is super fast, you can see there's a line over there, there's a line here. But whatever, the main thing is this is super quickly rendered. If you look in here, we have 120 frames rendered super quickly in real-time speed, really. So what we can do now, we can, well, for this to not be shown, this selection to not be shown, we can just deselect it, right? But for this relationship line to not be shown, we have to do something else. We have to go into this panel on the right, press N. And here in display, you can just deselect stuff like outline selected, and then also keep selection on, and relationship lines. But relationship lines is nice for debugging. Only render is just a quick switch, which is also useful. Let's test it like this real quick. Gonna animate the animation. There's still a line over here. I think that relates to the space we're in. And it is in the output. I don't know if you can actually see this, but there is a weird line there. So if we now go to the N menu and let's go back to 3D view, if we let's just say only render, right? And if we render it now, no more line. Alright, we're done here. And if we check out the images, yep, it's pretty much done. Let me just delete all this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna press this button again and switch immediately to this over here. Here, come on. Okay, the images get added so quickly we can't even follow it properly. Let me just delete them all, and now we're gonna do the Blender render again, because it's relatively fast. And if we hit animation here, and just keep updating this folder, we can see how slow it is by comparison. Of course, it has a different effect, and with cycles it even actually looks good. But if you just need to test something, or if you actually want this low poly, trashy look, then what you want is just the OpenGL render of the viewport. And this is how you render quickly, as opposed to slowly but ultra pretty in Blender. Just go to the 3D view and hit this icon for a single screenshot. You can do it from any perspective, you don't have to use a camera. Or hit this one and you will get a whole animation. Ain't that awesome? And now of course you can import these images into your video editor of choice, as you saw in this animation. So I hope this was useful, please subscribe to support this channel, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, ciao!